But what goes on today is there's a feeding frenzy. If you know the pension fund is going to only be around a couple more years, then you get in there and you suck all the life out of it you can before it's gone. But this would have the opposite effect, where if a pension was careening towards insolvency, Wall Street would be on its best behavior, knowing that when this pension gets turned over to government, somebody's going to do a final accounting and see if anybody stole anything. So there are a lot of benefits that would come from investigating the causes of pension failures, but the federal government has absolutely no interest in finding out.
And so that's why, like you're being a whistleblower, you provide a very, very important service, because you go in forensically to look at what happened, to figure it out, and you can warn people about what is happening. So let me ask you this then, who pays you? I mean, you get a percentage of what is left, or whatever the body count is. Who pays you if everybody's going broke?
Well, in the whistleblower programs, you only get paid if the government recovers money from the companies that have been engaged in wrongdoing. So the government pays you out of fines that they've collected. And of course, the best thing about these programs for taxpayers is whistleblowers don't get paid unless they're right, unless they substantially assist in uncovering a fraud and recovering money for taxpayers. The whistleblower doesn't get paid. And the other thing to keep in mind about these whistleblower programs is I've been doing this for 40 years, investigating pension wrongdoing. Your average government worker at the SEC or whatever, it's only been there for 5 years, 5 to 7 years. So they do not have on their staffs people who are capable of doing this work. And they really couldn't, because every case is different. You can't have a whole agency full of people that have 40 years experience. So it's a great benefit to the government, because this isn't work they could do themselves, and the experts only get paid if they're right.
Today, everything's changing so rapidly, but this time the tom-tom beats are getting louder and louder and more. Do it now, basically.
Yeah, and I think
we're out of time.
It changes the way we're thinking. It changes the way I'm thinking. I can't believe we're even having this conversation, that we've come this far, this fast. But he has always been, as you said, Robert, warning and hitting on the drum and saying, hey, pay attention, wake up.
We don't have time anymore.
We do not.
Time is out. My concern today is for Kim and I, our real issue is social unrest. The gap between the rich and poor is now excessive. And that leads to revolution, civil rioting, and all this. When you print all this fake money and you rig it for the rich only, what that produces is a wave of intensified and widespread social unrest, disjointed political upheaval, dangerous extremism, punishing trade wars, and sweeping isolation.
We are in the 9th year, arguably, of the second longest bull market in the history of our planet. 9th year. In about 5 months, it'll be the longest. And the interest rates are still rock bottom. So I don't see anything changing short of some calamity, a war with Russia. Interest rates have got to go up, in my opinion, at least 500 basis points before it's going to make a difference in the city, which is the financial district here of Wall Street. 500 basis points. And the world has just changed. The other thing that's changed is that the kids are more aware of how information is almost instantaneous now. Even though the internet was instantaneous, but now everybody and his dog is listening, watching their handheld device, and things that happen that are bad are spread, they go viral.
My whole fascination is, why are some people rich and why are some people poor? But in 2022, the gap between rich and poor is now accelerating. But a lot of the times, the people that are getting poor is simply because they had poor teachers.
And unfortunately, too, if they don't see the world the way it really is, they assume the solutions that are presented to them by the central planners and the politicians, they just take that at face value as that, oh, well, the solution for bridging the inequality gap, if you will, is just to tax the rich. We'll just take everything from the rich and we'll just let the politicians take what they want and then just give the table scraps to the poor. They assume that the way that you again, bridge that gap is by taking from one group, as though somehow there's like this fixed pie, and we have to realize that in free market capitalism, and that brings up the quality of life for the people at the bottom.
Inflation is the worst tax of all. Someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. The government will give you your money. I said this all the time. We own oil wells. We don't own oil companies. We don't own stocks. So again, when Biden cut the XL pipeline off, oil went from 30 to 130. Holy mackerel, we're making so much money today. The dangerous thing is people are being wiped out. That's what scares me. They talk about, tax the rich and all these other things they teach, but the thing that's frightening today is what Klaus Schwab is saying. Someday you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's the abolition of private property, which is Marx.
The crazy thing is they're trying to use inflation as a reason to tax the rich. And it's just completely perverse, because the way you solve consumer price inflation by producing more stuff. And, if you're taxing all the people that are producing, are we going to have less stuff in the future? Or are we going to have more stuff?
Pensions globally, not just here in the U.S., are at risk at this time. And in this past week in the U.K., we saw the near collapse, according to some experts, of nearly 90% of all the pension funds in England. The near collapse of all those 90% of these pensions holding like over $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion in assets. And what happened was really a government policy-induced pension crisis. It was the government came out with a policy to reduce taxes, and as a result, to reduce taxes in a highly inflationary environment, and so which resulted in adding tens of billions of pounds to the government debt, fueling greater inflation and causing bond prices to fall. And so it was like sort of cascading effect. This government action had a disastrous impact.